Hey guys, Nick here from J4U Studios, and welcome back to another episode of the J4U podcast. Luke, how are you doing?
I'm living.
Been about a month since our last podcast, and we have a good amount of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we do. It's been, like in that month's time, there's so much stuff that's been released and things going on and whatnot.
Movies, trailers, statements.
A lot of statements. Many statements have been said.
But we're going to talk about pretty much all of that. So,
yeah, we'll try to at least.
Yeah, so before we get into some of the more heavy, movie-related stuff and gaming-related stuff, gonna do a couple, minor plug or talk about a few, lesser topics, but the first one being Shane Dawson started his most recent documentary series since our last podcast. This one is currently on basically the makeup industry, and it's going step by step from the perspective of Shane Dawson starting his own makeup line from conception to putting something out in stores. What is that process like?
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, the first of his documentary series where he's one of the subjects of it, which I find interesting. It's really him and Jeffrey Star.
Yeah, not just, the interviewers or now the people do their stuff.
And it also shows a fair amount of stuff outside of the documentary they had planned that just kind of happened, such as the whole cat controversy and Jeffree Star.
Forgot about that.
Yep, and Jeffree Star getting $1 million worth of makeup stolen from his warehouses and different things like that are also covered. But yeah, just thought I'd talk about it considering. Let me pull up his exact views, but the original Jeffree Star documentary series, the first episode pulled over 45 million views.
Oh, damn. That's actually pretty impressive, honestly.
But let me see, what are the current views like on this series so far? I mean, he's one of those YouTubers who, he's not the most subscribed YouTuber on the platform, but he's definitely pulling in some of the most views.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the first episode of this most recent series has 24 million views, and it's only been out for 3 weeks. 20 million views 3 weeks, 19 million views 2 weeks, and then 16 million views 1 week. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Thought I'd talk about that, especially when they start getting into the numbers of the makeup industry, because holy shit.
Yeah, it's you wouldn't expect it to be.
Yeah, they made in the, I think, most recent episode a, I want to say a $30 million deal with the company.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So,
damn.
And then they start kind of giving a peek behind the curtain of all the business things that go into that. But anyway, just thought I'd mention that. And then also, other thing we're going to mention before we dive really into movie news is a short film called There Comes a Knocking, which comes out Monday by Film Riot. And the interesting thing about this short film, because Film Riot has done short films in the past, is that this short film they're using to kind of help produce a feature-length film they're looking at making.
Yeah, more proof of concept. Right.
Exactly. And it shares the same title and same general theme, but that short film comes out tomorrow, and they have put a hell of a production together for that from just the behind-the-scenes stuff they released in the trailer.
Yeah, and you showed me some of it, and it seems like... I've seen some of Film Riot stuff, but this actually seems pretty intricate considering their sort of method approach.
Massive crew, really interesting location because it's an actual house that it takes place in, but it's a very what's the word I want to use? Interesting architecture, I guess. That can look fantastic on camera. There Comes a Knocking. The thing that it's kind of been revealed is there's this door that's a huge part of the story, and they went in and actually made a custom door for that they installed in the house.
That's actually really cool of them.
So, yeah, it's definitely their most intricate production to date. So I can't wait to see how it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially because they have a fairly prominent actress in there. She's one of those actresses that's done kind of some mainstream stuff, a lot of the smaller stuff. But,
yeah.
And it's actually, the funny thing about it is I was doing a shoot last night for a documentary, and the group I was with, we went to go get dinner when we had a little bit of a break between action, and I could have swore for a second I saw her at the restaurant to the point where I went, let me do a Google search to see where she lives. Make sure it's not Flagstaff.
Yeah, just
okay, good. Maybe. It's not. But yeah.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so with that out of the way, let's get into the movie news. Starting off with one of the bigger topics we have here, Joker.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah,
that's
which
biggest of the month probably.
Mm-hmm. The last podcast, it was right before Joker came out, and we were talking about some of the film festival reaction and the controversy and that type of thing. But since then, the film actually has come out, and we've both seen it.
Yes, and I've been able to see it twice now, sort of to get a better feel for what my actual feelings towards the film are. Because first time around, I kind of hated it. Not gonna lie, it seemed the best way I can describe it is saying everything but nothing at the same time, and not knowing what it was. Like there's obviously some focus in there, like following, Arthur Fleck's story and how he turns into Joker and all that sort of thing. But like what it's trying to say thematically was just like, I don't know. And there's even a point where like Arthur Fleck basically says something like, I don't believe in anything, and then I made the joke to myself, like that's basically just this film then.
It feels a bit messier than I think. Like, I've heard people on both ends of the spectrum. There's the people who are like, they love it, this is the best movie ever made, and then there's the people who think it's just a mess. And I'm kind of somewhere in the middle.
And that's honestly a good, that's a good way to describe it. I think since then my thoughts on it have been a bit more kinder towards the film. Because I think, if nothing else, for like a film that's like gotten this budget and this amount of release, it's at least interesting in what it tries to tackle. Not all of it really works the best, but I appreciate like the attempt at it at least.
Yeah.
But there's some merit towards it, I'd say. It's just kind of gotta ratio it out with some stuff.
Because I'll say, going into it, and this is more so my fault than the film's, I went in with very high expectations. I went in predicting that this would be my number one favorite film of the year. Walked out going, okay, I enjoyed it. Definitely was not that, though. And it made me think, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't what I saw. First off, Joaquin Phoenix, I thought, was absolutely brilliant in it. Like, that was, for me, the main takeaway when I walked out was, holy shit, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, and I think that's basically what everyone thought as well. And it's definitely the thing that, it's like the thing that ties the film together, honestly. If you didn't have...
It wouldn't have worked if you didn't have him.
No, it would not have. Especially...
Jared Leto could not have pulled anywhere near the weight.
Yikes. Nah, not even close. Good idea of not bringing him back. But like totally just his like method of acting is like so specific, and it is the perfect thing for this kind of film. Because like it's not just Heath Ledger again. It's its own thing. Yeah. And I think it has something it doesn't feel as much like Joker, but it's still something that feels very specific to this adaptation.
And I will say, I think as a mental health piece, this film is fascinating. A lot of things it does. I don't think of it as a Joker movie, if I'm being honest. It's honestly, not like, because that might be why it's not my number one thing, and where my expectations didn't line up with the film. Because I was wanting it to tackle all these mental health things and all that kind of thing, but I was also wanting it to tackle the Joker more than it did.
Yeah,
it was very much so an Arthur Fleck film.
I think it's more like the birth of the idea of the Joker rather than like the Joker film.
Because like even by the end of the film, when he has his "I'm Joker" moment, he still doesn't. He's not there yet. It's almost like the end of Batman Begins. Of like, I can probably be Batman.
Exactly. Like it's more just like everything turns out the way that he wasn't expecting it to, but now he's suddenly at this position where he could be the Joker, but it's not really yet. It's
exactly. He's still, it's kind of that, I find it interesting, the idea of identity throughout the film, where he doesn't know who he is, and that's kind of what pushes him to become the Joker. And I guess, again, going back to the whole comic book mindset of it, another reason it doesn't feel like a Joker film is because he really accidents his way into becoming the Joker, which is not something I totally expected.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just like, it's more, he doesn't really become it, he kind of gets the idea of the Joker pushed onto him, more or less, like, just through, like, the societal issues going on in Gotham at the time and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, because, like, the interest, and not to compare Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix. But
of course, yeah.
the thing that I think has made Heath Ledger so iconic is that he never feels crazy. He always feels like he's in control. And I don't think Joaquin's really feels crazy, but you don't have that same control factor.
Yeah, he doesn't
which
really...
is one of the main things I noticed.
Yeah, it's more like with Joaquin, his character is more he just doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
By certain, like, situations.
It's the idea of society turning him into what he is by the end of the film.
Yeah, and just, like, that sort of corruption of power going on. Because one thing I think is kind of interesting is just some little details, like, you know, Thomas Wayne. We've always seen Thomas Wayne in, like, the films as, like, oh, this caring father and this, like, you know, source of inspiration for Bruce. And here he's more or less just, like a gluttonous asshole businessman that wants to, like, have some sort of societal power. And
which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, and it feels like they definitely knew what they were going for with that, and I think there's a little scene that I think is brilliant for, like, the societal kind of commentary was that protest that was going on outside of that theater that's showing the movie Modern Time, and it's a bunch of rich white people watching a movie about, you know, like, old Depression era class struggles. And it's just like, oh, okay, so this isn't completely just, like, we don't know what we're talking about. They have some idea of, like, the themes that they're trying to tackle with Joker, how that plays in, and how to kind of incorporate it subtly, I'd say.
Yeah. And I think my only criticism, because I have my own kind of the personal bias thing that I mentioned of, like, my expectations being different.
Of course.
The only thing that I would consider kind of my criticism of it is trying to think of how to say this without spoiling it. There's kind of an inciting incident that kind of, it really shifts the tone in Arthur Fleck's mentality and involves a train sequence. And I saw that moment of, like, oh shit, and then he goes, there's a little dance part, and I was like, okay, this is where the transformation starts. And then there's a lot more, it kind of went back to the identity thing, and then revisited that later, and it was more so setting up the more societal protests and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that period, for me at least, felt kind of slow, pacing why they had some issues there.
Honestly, same here. Like, that, I think that's probably, like, the weakest section of the film, in my opinion.
Whereas then you get to a part later in the film where he finds out a piece of information, ends up killing someone. From that moment to the end of the film, I was like, cool, this is interesting, and you're seeing more of that transformation.
Yeah.
Before then, it was just kind of the descent in identity crisis, which was interesting. I thought was just kind of dragged out for a little too long.
Yeah, it more or less felt like, oh, he's becoming the Joker, Oh.
Then, like,
okay,
who is Arthur Fleck? And just hung on that for a while. And then it's like,
20 minutes later.
Oh, here it goes. Let's get back on the path we started on.
All right, yeah, Joker. My biggest criticism is there's, like, a plot point. Again, it's, like, super spoilery.
And I assume it's in that section of identity.
It's in that middle part. It's before he finds out that crucial piece of information involving a character, and it's just like, you didn't need to spell it out.
Yeah.
We knew what was going on there.
Yep. I know what you're talking about, and I do agree with that.
Yeah.
I kind of consider that as part of that section where it's like, you could have just chopped up that a little bit more, gave a little bit more of that flair from the second half, and you would have been solid.
Exactly. It's like trying to do more of, like, getting the idea of he's falling into insanity in some way, but it's like edited in such a way where, like, it doesn't feel like it because we can fully understand it, and then you're just like, beat you over the head with it again.
Yeah, and honestly, something I wish this film did more of, and this is more of if I were to have made this film kind of thing, what I would have loved to see more of, is more of that unreliable narrator thing. Because we get sections of that, and I've heard people make the case of, like, oh, you can question everything, or you can question nothing, and I would have liked there to be more questions of, like, wait, did that happen? No, that didn't happen. Wait, did that... And for you to question every scene of the film. I don't think there's enough of that.
There's absolutely not. Like, you can kind of get a good feel of when reality sort of begins and ends. And the movie we'll talk about later does that much better, and I'll probably talk on that. But yeah, like,
I would have loved it if it really made you question everything from the first shot to the last shot.
Yeah.
And the last scene tries to wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It's...
But that's it's less of interesting filmmaking and more of like theorize if you want. Like
it doesn't feel like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It feels like getting punched in the rib. Like, do you get it?
Yeah, but I wish they had more things where like you would see a scene where something happens and then the next scene directly contradicts that could have happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I wish there had been more of that because I think that would have been a really interesting thing to have tackled in this on top of a lot of the things they already did. It just felt very linear, straightforward, and like you said, kind of that we're making a point, not totally a point. We don't want to have a hard line, but we're making a point, and it's like
we don't want to be like standing on a certain position on this, guys.
Yeah,
because we can't really afford that. But yeah, it's just like
yeah, it's one of those situations where I like the movie. I think it could have been better. I think there's some things really that could have been improved. Like the main standout thing from it is Joaquin Phoenix.
Exactly. Yes, that's like the key thing.
Yeah.
And again, this film probably would have failed if it wasn't for him.
If it wasn't Joaquin Phoenix, I think just would have fallen flat.
Exactly.
Not to say again it's a bad movie. It just is weak in some areas that kind of stand out.
Yeah, and yeah, like some of them are like whatever, but some of them are pretty like a bit egregious in terms of how much they don't work.
Yeah. And it's kind of a bummer because like it's not to the same extent, but kind of how I feel about Venom of like, man, this could have been really, really awesome. And it's like, this one was great. And I'm glad that it's getting the conversation that it should have of people are seeing it and people are talking about it. That's great. The film itself could have been a little bit stronger.
Yeah. If nothing else, I think it's at least an interesting conversation starter, even if some people have been taking it into weird ways.
Which is great for a superhero film.
Yeah,
I think this is one of those films that, kind of like The Dark Knight, needed to happen to kind of change up the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like something that just, if we don't adapt this sort of genre enough, it'll go stale. So we have something that's like challenging and interesting and yada yada yada.
I really just hope this opens the door for more films like that.
I think it will.
More Logans, more Dark Knight and type films.
Kind of sort of things. Yeah. That'd be cool. I'd like that.
Yeah. But anyway, anything else to talk about with the Joker?
No, I think that covers more or less everything.
And also just to see a comment that I see here in the live stream, but I've been seeing a lot on just videos in general about trans crafters. My deepest apology. I think I've recorded the next 2 episodes. They just need to be edited. But school, doing a short film, a few other things that I can't quite talk about, haven't had the time to edit it because these episodes of Trans Crafters are crazy to edit. I just can't sit down for half an hour and be like, okay, there we go. It's a time-consuming process. It could take weeks of me sitting down at a computer to crank something out, and I at the moment don't have that. So I don't have a release date. It's more so just when I have time in my schedule to work on it, I will work on it, and depending on how much of that I get, that would depend on when you see it.
Yeah, it'll come out when it is ready to come out, and when we're
which I will say
available.
Great. I really like where the next couple episodes go. How did episode 2 end? Episode 2 ended with Sentinel coming back to Earth. I don't think he was revived. I think you see that in the next episode. Spoiler alert for a series based off of a movie. But yeah, I really like the way that we handle some of the things that happen in the movie. The highway fight, especially, was something that I had spent a lot of time going, how the fuck do I do the highway fight from Dark of the Moon in Minecraft? And I think what we came up with actually worked pretty well. So, I hope to get it out fairly soon for you guys. Then there's a video that I'm just trying to get some information from Willie on that's been done for a while that will probably be uploaded soon that Luke helped edit and do camera stuff for.
I think I know what that is.
Yeah. So just getting some final stuff done for that, but that should also come out not too long. But yeah, anyway, back to the agenda here. So this past week, was it?
Yeah, I believe it was this past week.
This past week, they released the final trailer for Star Wars: The Rise of Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I hate that fucking title, by the way.
It's alright.
It's like it. Again, they could have a thing where it's like, ooh, the Jedi are now Skywalkers, but the moment it's such a nothing title of like that's the Star Wars word. and it rises. Like
it's like movies that have Revelation as their subtitle on it.
And it's like, I admit it, Star Wars has some titles before this one that just don't make a whole lot of sense or don't work. But like this to me is probably the most like nothing title up there with like Phantom Menace.
Fair enough, yeah.
To where it's like, I mean,
Ghost bad.
You're like, it's not even like he's a ghost. He's just a Sith Lord, and you haven't seen them for a while. So he's a Phantom, and Menace is a cool word for bad guy. Like it's.
You know what? Phantom Menace would have actually been a fitting title for this film, considering.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, yeah, seriously. But it's like, I don't know. Rise of Skywalker just kind of bugs me as a title, but that has nothing to do with the trailer that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. I gave my thoughts in the trailer reaction. I'll kind of add on to it, but what were your thoughts?
The thing is, like, I can totally understand your thoughts on it, being sort of a little bit unimpressed, because you're more averse in Star Wars as just everything in Star Wars based, more or less. I'm someone who just goes about it from, I mostly just know the main series films and, like, a little bit of video game lore, but I don't know how much of that is canon anymore. But
probably none at this point.
Probably none, but... I know everyone's kind of having like a dunk on the sequel series at the moment, but I've been just having a lot of fun and really enjoying like where it's been going at the moment, even if it does feel a little bit scatterbrained. Because I remember we made the joke of J.J. Abrams made that movie, Rian Johnson made that movie, and then J.J. Abrams like, oh fuck, how do I end this off?
Yeah.
And that's true. I don't know how it's going to end, so I can't really vouch for the quality of the film at the moment. But I'm excited for it. It looks like a lot of fun, and I love. If nothing else, like, again, I'm kind of a cinematography person. I like more just, like, visual stuff.
That's
and
fair.
I just love the authenticity of, like, the way the worlds look and the way that they have the effects look and just using, like, 35mm cameras and all that sort of fun stuff. And it's just, it looks really nice, and I'm just been having fun with these characters, honestly. Even if, like, they aren't, like, most well-written characters of all time. Like, I've just been enjoying where they took them, where it's been going, and all that sort of thing. But, yeah, that's just my thoughts from someone who has, like, bare minimum knowledge of Star Wars.
Yeah. And I think I found my words better when I was editing the trailer reaction. And the trailer reaction, I said something along the lines of this, but I think just to help clarify, I actually enjoyed Episode 7. I enjoyed Episode 8. But the reason I'm not excited for Episode 9 is because the stories don't feel like they're connecting well.
That's fair.
It feels like, if you were to not see Episode 8 and you just saw Episode 7, you'd be like, okay, that's cool. Same way, if you didn't see Episode 7, you just saw Episode 8, and you were like, okay, that's cool. But telling a combined story in the trilogy in the same way that the original trilogy did, and even the prequel trilogy did, which, again, there's been I'm probably not the only one who knows this, an odd resurgence of, like, people now praising the prequels.
Yeah, I've seen that too, and I've actually been seeing it for a while now.
Yeah, and I'm personally of the mind of, I still don't think the prequels are good. I don't think people who are shitting on the sequels and saying, like, man, the prequels were great, is like, no, they're not. Like, my standpoint on it is I think George Lucas had a great story for the prequel. The execution's dog shit.
That's the thing, like, not like on paper dialogue was bad, but like the general idea the general idea of what he was trying to do was a very interesting idea, because it's like, how did the Jedi basically like let the Sith ultimately control them? But issue is, I don't like sand, so I don't know like how you had a good idea, but like you have to execute it, sir.
And people are just kind of, I think, forgetting that, because society right now, we're very caught up on the now of like, this is either the best or the worst. And it's like, that thing that happened before? Nah, that's fine. It's like...
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering how much of the audience that really loves the prequel trilogy grew up with it before, like...
and I'm thinking that's it.
Maybe.
It's probably a lot of people who grew up on that, and that's kind of formed their opinion of Star Wars.
Do you know what's a good thing? I grew up in an era where I could have, but I didn't. On the flip side, though, I watched the VHSs of the original trilogy, but it was the sort of edited ones, so, yeah.
See, I saw the VHS unedited, is what I have.
Oh, man, I wish I had that. I had to find it for myself, like, years later, and when I realized the versions I saw as a kid were, like, gross and bad versions. So I was like, oh, guess I gotta fix that up.
Yeah. But you also mentioned the characters in the sequel trilogy, and I feel like Rey in Episode 7 is very different from Rey in Episode 8, and even same with like Finn and For me,
honestly.
there's also not a whole lot of character consistency that we've seen so far.
That's actually fair. I can totally understand that.
Which again, prequels had a very similar problem, especially with Anakin.
Yeah, exactly.
Obi-Wan was probably the only person, which fucking Ian McGregor is like the standout of the prequel trilogy.
He really is, honestly.
But other than Obi-Wan, there's that same problem there.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things to where it's like, especially because of how real time we're going through the sequel trilogy, I was like, I don't feel like I have a strong connection to Rey or Finn.
That's understandable.
I feel like I had a stronger connection, as I said in the trailer action, when I was watching the first trailers for Force Awakens, because I could imagine what they would be like.
That's understandable. Yeah, like the way that their characters have been developing has been a bit like up and down and all over the place sometimes, so it's kind of been hard to really grasp like what they're really going for.
Yeah. And I think the problems that I'm having with the sequel trilogy could have been avoided if they just had more time before Episode 7 came out, where they just sat down, group of writers, and wrote the scripts for all 3 Star Wars movies in a session.
Yeah, just do like what they did with fucking Lord of the Rings, just film it all of them all at once because I knew what they were gonna write.
I would have loved it if they'd done that, even if it meant they acquired the rights and then we got 6 years of nothing. I would have been okay with that if it meant we got a more cohesive trilogy.
Yeah.
It could have still been JJ, Ryan, JJ.
Yeah.
But then at least if they knew where they were going, I think it would have been a lot smoother.
Yeah, it would have just been smoothly ground to go off of because they know what they are doing. But
Lord of the Rings is actually a perfect example of what I would have loved to see of that kind of style of narrative.
Yeah, because it's just more efficient, honestly. I don't know why they didn't do that to begin with if they knew...
Money. That's why. They wanted a quicker return on investment.
I guess. Fucking... But, there's a possibility of people seeing it later in the future, and if it doesn't...
We'll make more Star Wars movies before then that they can buy.
We'll just make a streaming service and nobody will care.
It's like, oh, you didn't like The Last Jedi? Mandalorian! Ooh!
Obi-Wan series for all you prequel shows.
But, yeah. And also, speaking of some Star Wars news, I actually realized we didn't put in here that has happened, I believe, since the last podcast. The whole George Lucas thing that came out from Bob Iger's book. Are you familiar with that?
Was it something like he got upset when he saw, the new films?
Yeah, so...
I don't know anything about that, honestly.
So what it was is Bob Iger, in a book, had basically a chapter about the Star Wars acquisition from Disney. And in it, he basically said, they approached George, and that actually... Because I read the excerpts from that book. I haven't bought it, but I read the excerpts from it. And it is actually really heartbreaking, because you can tell that George Lucas has these stories, because he wrote the scripts for the next trilogy.
Oh, he did. Okay.
And he had a story of Star Wars he wanted to tell, but because of the reception of the prequels, he was afraid to tell it himself. So
that's like the prequel thing. I don't like them, but the way people have reacted, the way the people that hate them the most have reacted is just kind of despicable at times.
Well, especially because Hayden Christensen went to D23 after the acquisition. And was terrified to get up on stage because he thought everyone would boo him.
Yeah, that shit.
Stuff like that.
Shit right there.
And the actor who played Anakin from Phantom Menace got bullied and harassed to the point where he did drugs.
Yeah, that's... Remember, kids, don't make Star Wars movies.
Yeah. But anyway, going back to the book thing, he sold it to Disney with the idea of they were going to basically... Because they also bought his screenplays to use them for the next trilogy. And we're like, don't worry, we are going to buy these. We're going to use these stories. We also want to bring you on as a consultant, but just realize that we don't have to if we deem we'll do it on a case-by-case basis. And same with the screenplays. We're going to buy them. We're going to try and make them, but we're not contractually obligated to make them.
Yeah, make them the way that they've been written.
And it was kind of done as one of those things, and Bob Iger even kind of confirms, I think I misled George on it, of it was kind of one of those, we're not writing in the contracts that we're going to use these screenplays, but we're going to use these screenplays. And then they invited George to a meeting with J.J. Abrams to talk about the script and what they were doing for Episode 7. And George sat there, started reading it, and his expression changed, and he went, "They're not using my version." And it's one of those things where they're like, "Oh yeah, after talking with JJ and some of the writers, we decided we were going to go a different direction." And he just kind of got heartbroken that he gave up his story.
And they didn't even use it.
And it's like, I'm going to be honest, there's no guarantee that his version was any good.
But still.
But from the idea of, I think of it as, he had this story for the original Star Wars trilogy, and it was passion for him. He made it. It did phenomenal, and he wanted to continue telling the story, and as he did so, people started to hate it.
Yeah.
And he had more story to tell, but he was too scared to tell it, so he gave it to someone else to tell it, and they just did something totally different.
It's like, the best way I can describe it is like, you gave someone your child, and they threw it in a dumpster and gave you a different child. It's like, this is what you want, right?
And then what you mentioned of, he saw Episode 7, and he just wasn't happy because it wasn't his story.
And that's understandable, honestly. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean like he hates the movie. It's just like imagine if you had your movie, like your own story, and then someone took it, revamped it, and then it got released, and you know that you'll never be able to make that movie.
Yeah, and that's honestly my theory for why they agreed to buy his screenplays. They were never going to use them.
Yeah,
they bought it so that he couldn't leak them. Is my guess.
Probably, yeah. That makes sense. Even if it is a bit scummy.
Yeah. And then one of the other points that I remember he said, and why he didn't like Episode 7, he said, "You didn't do anything new. You just remade my original trilogy into one movie." And his mindset on it is, Star Wars, every movie you should be trying to do a technological advancement and be doing something new to propel film forward. Which actually makes sense for, while it was shitty, Attack of the Clones' use of CGI.
Yeah, and
blue screen.
Being filmed on digital cameras rather than, like, film cameras.
Yeah, it was his way of trying to advance that technology.
Yeah. That's understandable. I just don't know, like, what they would have done, though, I guess, now thinking, like, technologically speaking. Like,
unless they were to do a total James Cameron.
Or like, an Ang Lee and shooting 128 frames per second.
Yeah. But, anyway, so that was that piece of news as well.
Yeah.
By the way, hello, Cool Sans. Welcome to the live stream. Glad to have you. But anyway, now that we're off of Star Wars, I also decided to wear my original trilogy shirt.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. But anyway, now moving on to a short that came out called Battle of Big Rock, which is a Jurassic World-esque film, a short film. So what did you think of it?
I thought things about it. I don't think anything positive or negative, honestly. I was just, dinosaurs, they're there, it's Jurassic World.
I will say, it felt more like a Jurassic Park film than the last Jurassic World did.
You know what, fair enough, but that's not saying much.
Yeah. And it's like, it made me think, I hope they take more of this direction on it than the horror in a mansion feel of the last movie.
Yeah.
Like, it also made me realize, like, oh man, I don't need Chris Pratt in the new Jurassic World, and I'd still be okay. Like,
I kind of prefer if they don't have Chris Pratt.
Oh, they're gonna. Absolutely. There's no question about that, but...
Gonna have fucking, like... Do you remember the scene in Jurassic World where he got, like, shot with a tranquilizer dart, but it was like, I'm just gonna still go, though. Well,
as there was lava approaching him and he was trying to move. That movie was also two totally different story pitches for Jurassic World, and they're like, fuck it, do both, and they just made it one script.
Made basically like Alien in a house mansion with whatever the fuck the first half was.
And somehow neither felt like a Jurassic World film, or a Jurassic Park film.
And neither of them was good.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people I saw online shitting on the short film for the, like, logic reasons of, like, dude, just silence the fucking baby, put your mouth over, or the hand over their mouth type of thing. That didn't bug me too much. It was one of those, like, things. But I was more so interested to see, like, this had a budget.
Yeah.
So I saw this as the equivalent of them doing a trailer for it where they don't want to show you much of the movie.
Yeah, it's like a mini trailer.
Exactly. I'd be fine if they did more of these short films to hype up the next Jurassic World movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to trailers of, like, Chris Pratt running away from an exploding volcano. Whoa!
Wow.
Slow motion. Oh man, there's a dinosaur they made. It has claws. It's doing scary shit. Whoa!
They jump off a cliff. Oh no, are they gonna make it?
Like, I'd rather they find indie filmmakers and have them do like little short 10-minute Jurassic World films.
Yeah. You know what? The big thing is though, if they are gonna go forward with more Jurassic World films, fire Colin Trevorrow, please.
Is he back?
He directed this.
He did. I didn't even realize he did that.
Directed this, wrote the 2 Jurassic World films, and directed the first film.
Okay. Oh, that's right, and he is doing the new one.
I've kind of given up with Jurassic Park films at this point.
Yeah. I think I've given up on a fair amount of the remake series.
At least Jurassic Park 3 was funny.
And I dug the Spinosaurus. I'm in the minority of that, I'm aware. But I actually dug the Spinosaurus.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so moving on. The Lighthouse. I'm going to let you take this over.
This is what I've been talking about. I've worn specifically for this. But I didn't actually plan that. But, alright, so Lighthouse was a film I've been excited for, like, literally ever since I heard about it, ever since I saw stills and trailers coming out for it, and so I was incredibly excited to see it when it came out on Thursday. And it was everything I hoped it would be. It was everything I hoped it could be and was. And I loved it so much, I literally saw it last night again. And I have 2 other films I've seen that, like, I went to a film festival recently that I saw. 2 other films that I feel like maybe I kind of connected more personally. But honestly, I think this might be the best film of the year, genuinely. And it's a horror film, so that's saying a lot, honestly. It's just so, like, every little detail about it is so good. Like, there's the way the film looks. It's like, you know, some films try to do, like, oh, it's old, let's do the square aspect ratio and black and white, and we'll leave it there. This has, like, shot on 35mm, has, like, lighting so specific, it's, like, so evocative of older films, but not in just the we're doing it for the sake of doing it. Like, it actually creates an atmosphere, like a very genuinely creepy atmosphere in the film. Production design, and the best thing about it is, like, it's this open-ended experience. Like, it's almost like a filmic Rorschach test, where, like, you could get your own reading on it. Like, anybody could really think of something and it could be interesting. And at the same time, it's kind of a shitpost film, not gonna lie. I like, this isn't a spoiler because, like, the first scene in the movie, but, like, the best summation of this whole film is like this opening scene where they arrive on this island. It's black and white, foggy, super atmospheric. They're just walking around this little lighthouse area, you know, starting to set things up. It's just quiet, no music. And the scene ends with Robert Pattinson going in, making his bed, sitting down sort of somberly, and then you just hear Willem Dafoe fart. And that's the movie. That's the movie. That's the movie in a nutshell. And it's like the movie specifically made for me. Like, it's something I wish I could have made.
That's awesome. And
I love it. I love it to death. And I'm probably gonna see it again this weekend.
Yeah, I'll probably see it this upcoming weekend when I get a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for it. For me, it's one of those films where, you know, I wasn't super excited about it when I first kind of started seeing stuff. I was like, okay, it's there. Yeah. But then as more and more has been coming out about it, like reviews and things like that, I'm like, oh, I'm excited for this. I'm digging it. Yeah. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that, like, there haven't been a lot of films yet this year that have really, like, I've been in love with. Like, it was the same thing last year, which really bummed me out, where I didn't have, like, a film where I was like, that film. Man, that film. Yeah. And, like, I'm still kind of looking for that film, especially because Joker wasn't that film for me.
Yeah. It's a good thing there's still some time in the year left, because there's, like, God, November and December are going to be packed. Oh, absolutely. New Scorsese, like, so much stuff. But, like, yeah, like, Lighthouse, though, is... It's one of those things, like, the best way I can describe going to see this film is more like a circus show. It's like, come around, everyone see the freak sort of thing. Because it's great, but, like, I still don't fucking know. I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to be about. But again, like, it's you can look at it in your own way and what you might think it could be. but I'm just excited to see what you think of it when you see it.
Yeah.
Because it's something. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. And now moving on from Lighthouse, we got another great film that just
another
came out.
art house film. You mean?
Yeah.
Gemini
Man.
All right. So I'm gonna admit this fully 100% honestly.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's bad, but it's my kind of trash. It is exactly my kind of trash. It's literally just a Metal Gear Solid film. That's what this is. It's fucking Will Smith being like super stoic, but kind of in a enjoyable way, not like in a flat way.
Mm-hmm. Which I mean, Will Smith is one of those actors who can do that. You can put him in a role and he'll just Will Smith it, and it will be great.
Yeah, honestly. And it's got like super crazy, ridiculous action sequences and like the dialogue shit, but it's great shit. It's kind of like a world trotting.
What is this? Some kind of Gemini man?
Fuck off. Okay, like legit, there's a point where I thought someone was gonna say that. I actually thought this. I think it was like a scene where he finds out the fact that there's like a second person, and he's like, I think he says like, "What is this?" And I was certain he was gonna say some kind of Gemini man.
That's awesome.
But no, they didn't, and I was like, damn it. But no, like it's just so ridiculous. It has like crazy, ridiculous, fun action sequences. Like the exposition is so dumb. It's so dumb. It's like, look, our corporation, we're gonna create a series of super soldiers created after you for some reason. And I think the thing that made me enjoy it the most was I saw it in 3D, but the big thing was in high frame rate actually, which was weird because Ang Lee made another film that he filmed in high frame rate, but like at the time there's barely any theaters that could really show it in the way it was supposed to be shown. But now somehow like a lot of theaters are able actually to do that now, and so I saw it in high frame rate 3D, which was honestly the best way you could watch this film because it's strangely immersive in a way I wasn't expecting for dumb Will Smith action film, because you have like the 3D elements there, but like the movement feels so fluid and like genuinely realistic because we don't view life in 24 frames per second. It's like something higher than that. Yeah,
it was arbitrarily chosen because people were like, yeah, that looks cool, let's just make that the standard.
Actually, there is a reason why there is for that I've heard that's kind of interesting. Like it's more like a philosophy sort of thing rather than like an actual like scientific thing, but like some people say that like the way that you view your dreams is kind of closer to like a 24 frames per second than like...
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and it's super strange. But yeah, apparently that's like what it's like in a dream, which is why people do 24 frames per second for most films, I guess. But yeah, but like this one is not that, and it's super hyper crazy realistic sort of look for it, and it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. It's dumb as fuck. You want to know why it's dumb as fuck? One of the showrunners for Game of Thrones wrote it. Sorry. But no. But like, yeah, it's just a crazy dumb action film, but it's a lot of fun and I loved it, personally.
Yeah. So how was the CGI Will Smith's doppelganger?
There's only one scene in which it was kind of like Uncanny Valley-esque, but like everything else was actually pretty good, honestly. Like it was... I didn't think about it, which was like the impressive aspect.
That's good. That's very good.
It was. I did not notice it until the last scene of the film because it was like in bright daylight. So that's kind of hard to do, but everything else was pretty fine, honestly.
Yeah, I was watching some of the behind the scenes and how it's made, and it was really interesting.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty fun.
All right. So, have you seen some of these next films that we're going to talk about?
I haven't seen Zombieland or Hustlers. I need to see Hustlers, but
Hustlers is on my list. I've been really interested in some of the behind the scenes. J-Lo put out, I think it was on YouTube, a video talking about, or not talking about, it was showing her prep for the film, and it was really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And like a lot of people have actually been saying it's like one of the best of the year, and I was like, oh dang, I should check it out then at some point. Right.
Let's talk about the stuff. So. Probably a little bit more abbreviated, but Zombieland, Double Tap. I actually mainly have it on here because my brother saw it and told me a lot about it. But he said that it's very similar to the previous Zombieland film. Not as good, but it was able to capture a lot of that same feel and tone, which I think was important. It was my main worry is it would be too 2019.
Yeah,
whereas that's what a lot of these sequel or remake films have been.
Yeah. It's
but this one, and he said, and I've seen some reviews that said it was able to capture the spirit of Zombieland. But it still makes me wonder, like, what it would have been like if a sequel had come out right after the original Zombieland. Maybe they got a trilogy and then were able to do a later, now they're older type film. But
I was gonna think the same thing. Yeah, because like Zombieland was pretty successful when it came out. I think.
Well, and it was different. It was a new take on the zombie apocalypse thing when zombie apocalypses were just starting to become that popular media thing.
Yeah, the thing that everyone.
Whereas now we've kind of gone through that full wave of the zombie apocalypse, and it's like, hey, Zombieland 2. It's like,
Now that we're out of that craze, I'd say for the most part, I think, because early 2000s, early 2010s was like fucking flood with it. Yeah.
So it just makes me wonder what it would have been like if a sequel had come out sooner.
Yeah. I kind of wonder the same thing. I'm not really that big a fan of the first Zombieland. Like, it was fine, but it wasn't something I got all that much out of, just because, like, I feel like I could just watch Shaun of the Dead. Get more or less the same experience.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't really have any thoughts on the new one.
For me, it's one of those things where I enjoyed the first one, and I just love the idea of a zombie comedy with Jesse Eisenberg and Harrelson. What's his first name?
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson. I was thinking William, and I was like, that's definitely not it.
William Harrelson.
But like those two together in a comedy that's graphic with zombie stuff just sounds awesome to me.
Yeah.
But definitely. I'm not super into the sequel from the trailers and all that.
Yeah, same here.
There's just something about it to where, and maybe it is the time aspect of it to where it's like, I don't know, I really like the first one, but there's nothing pulling me to the sequel.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like, well, doing it again.
Yeah.
Alright.
Alrighty. And then next, Hustler. So I guess what I'll mainly talk about is I think it was on YouTube, J-Lo put out, it was just kind of a behind-the-scenes thing, showing her training she went into for the pole dancing sequences and all that stuff, having multiple coaches, installing a pole in her house and doing hours and hours a day of just physical training to get her body to that point. Her legs were totally bruised and fucked up for periods of time. And then it basically went through from that to their first day of shooting, where she did a scene and impressed people who'd been doing it for years.
Yeah, like it was like, oh damn, like you seem like a professional by this point.
So that was really cool, and I'm interested in the film.
Yeah, honestly, like I more was hearing about it from like people who saw it at like festivals kind of early, and I didn't know about it like as a festival like indie film. I just saw like the advertisements, like it could be kind of a fun comedy sort of thing, but like oh, there's more to it than just that. Like it's got a lot more like social themes going on in there. It's not just like fun comedy sort of thing. And people have actually been saying like really great things about J-Lo's performance. Yeah. And the film was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. Should check it out at some point. And haven't been able to yet.
It's one of those films that's on my list. But as you know, I have a very, very long list. And the checklist part of it is slowly but surely happening.
I'm making my watch list for things to see by the end of the year. So, because, for J4U Film Awards.
Yeah. In fact, you can probably confirm this here. So on my to-do list, I have Watch First Man on here. Because I still haven't done that. Do you want to know how long it's been on this to-do list?
How long?
Probably over a month.
Yeah, that sounds
of like a month of me going like, I'm going to watch this film this week. Nope. Okay, I'm going to watch the film this week. Nope. I'm going to watch the film tomorrow. You know what? I'm just going to... Nope. Just didn't happen yet. And you want to know the best part? Don't think it's going to happen this weekend. So, next week.
Hey, at least you're seeing the Lighthouse.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's on my list, and hopefully I get to it.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
Oh, man. So, the next one on our list is... It's Summon. It's the trailer for Doolittle came out.
It did.
And I'm going to be honest, I didn't see it until right before we started rolling on this. Because it was the trailer came out, it's like, oh man, maybe I should do a trailer reaction on it. I don't know if my viewers will like it and blah, blah, blah. And then I got caught up in stuff, and then the Star Wars trailer came out, I was like, well, fuck, now that's obviously way more important to do, so I was able to do that, but then Doolittle kind of slid under the radar for me until just now.
Yeah.
But I saw it. And yeah, so...
It's definitely a trailer.
I mean, and it's kind of a bummer for me because Robert Downey Jr. had been kind of hyping it up and he's passionate about it. And I was hoping that would come through in the trailer, but when I was watching it, it just felt very meh.
It felt like a mid-2000s film.
But he seemed really dramatic in it.
I feel like thing,
casting Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doolittle is awesome. He's just going to have fun for 2 hours pretending to talk to animals.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. That's not at all the tone of the trailer.
It feels like this is super serial, guys. We're animals are talking.
Which, and then this might make more sense on why I watched it immediately after, complete polar opposite tone of the Eddie Murphy Dr. Doolittle. Which, for full transparency, that's what I grew up on. I had that on VHS and watched the crap out of the Dr. Doolittle Eddie Murphy film.
A classic.
Because I think when I was younger, I wanted to be a vet and I loved animals and that kind of stuff. So that was like a constant repeat. Like, man, I want to talk to animals like Eddie Murphy.
like Eddie Murphy. And then I showed you also the clip from the older film.
And then we watched, a clip from the older Dr. Doolittle. And it's one of those things where it's like, man, it's like, in watching the trailer, Eddie Murphy, Dr. Doolittle, not aged well at all. It's really. Like, oof.
No.
But it's very clearly a comedy of that decade.
It definitely does feel like a comedy
Whereas
of that decade.
I wish that this Dr. Doolittle was a comedy of this decade.
Yeah,
and it feels so much like it's a very dramatic... I almost got some social commentary vibes.
That was the fucking weirdest part. It's like, what are you gonna... Are you gonna make some sort of thing with this? How?
And also, it's the trailer. I really want to give him benefit of the doubt. The CGI.
Oof.
Like... Watching the Eddie Murphy one, it was like, yeah, I buy that. Watching this one, I was like,
I don't buy any of this shit.
The tiger especially.
Oh,
that
Jesus
was rough.
Christ.
That was rough.
I'm gonna barf.
And again, trailer, want to give them benefit of the doubt. They have more time to work on it. I really hope this isn't one of those films where they were like, yeah, we got Robert Downey Jr., we're solid. All right, here's all the clips. We need you to do CGI in the next 2 weeks. All right, thank you very much.
We're still underpaying you, by the way.
Yeah, it's like, God, it could work if maybe the CGI was there.
If it was there, but it's not.
For me, this tone with not great CGI isn't an awesome combination.
Nah, it's fucking funny. We had the Jungle Book like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we get this, and it's like, okay, you're really doing this in this day and age. And it's not like this film has like a small budget. It has like fucking almost $200 million.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
That's because they went over budget. So yeah.
And like also, just it kind of bums me out because I want to give him this film the benefit of the doubt, but like coming off of Endgame, I love to see Robert Downey Jr. do a role that he just killed it in. So that he's no longer bound to like Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. He can just be Robert Downey Jr. And this role I don't see as that.
This is going to be the one that defines me, guys.
Yeah, it almost feels like... It doesn't even feel like I'll take my paycheck thing. It feels like, you know what, I'm going all in. Going to be the most dramatic. This will get me the Oscar type of film. And then the trailer... Nothing else backs that up.
If Chaplin didn't do it, then this will. God.
But it's just a bummer for me.
Yeah, it really is, honestly. It's like... It could have been a fun concept, like, if you played it fun and silly.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the idea of a character who can talk to animals. There's a million bajillion ways you could go with that.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, there's a lot of possibility in that, honestly. And then it's just... Oh no, we're gonna make it like Pirates of the Caribbean or some shit. I don't know what the fuck they're trying to do.
I mean, Pirates of the Caribbean is fun though.
Fair point. Like,
it's like not Robert Downey Jr., Johnny Depp knew what he wanted to do with pirates. And was like, I'm going to have the time of my life doing this. Until the more recent ones, but...
yeah.
That's a different story. It feels like a very different approach.
It really does, honestly.
And it's an approach that I'm not on board with. And I also don't know who their audience is for it.
Yeah, that's like the thing. I don't know who... It's like... Is it a kid's film? Maybe, but it's also like kind of acting super serious at times. Is it for adults? Fuck no.
Yeah, and if it's for anyone who knew the past Dr. Doolittles, I don't know if there's enough to pull them into this.
Is there even much of an audience for people who have seen Dr. Doolittle films?
I mean, if it were more lighthearted, I would probably be in that camp.
Fair enough.
But just the tone for me is like, well, that doesn't feel like Dr. Doolittle. Especially, like, the scenes with him, like, putting on a hat, like, Doolittle. It's like...
Doolittle.
Doolittle's not a name that you can do that with. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Maybe, like, an Indiana Jones has built up a legacy for that kind of a moment. But, like... Or, like, a, Mary Poppins can have that kind of a moment. But a walking out the door, putting on a hat for Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah, it's like... Man, this image is gonna create so much nostalgia and whatever.
Yeah, it almost feels like to me,
man,
they didn't have an audience, and they're just like, you know what? We'll get Robert Downey Jr. in here. Millions of tickets sold.
Yeah, like they just think that alone will like bank this film entirely, and it's just like, nah, it's not.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see. What do we have next on the list here? Ooh, Watchmen HBO.
Oh, yeah. And have you seen the first episode yet?
I have not yet, so I'll let you kind of take control of this one.
Okay. It's very interesting to say the least because, like, I love Watchmen, like the comic Watchmen. My thoughts on the film are... How do I put this lightly? I don't like it, I guess. I don't know, but anyways, I'm not a big fan of the movie just because like it is very faithful for the most part, but not really to the tone. I'd say it feels like they knew the themes, but they just didn't care and went more for like the gratuitous violence occasionally. But I can see its merits though, and this seems like it's going for something a lot more interesting, kind of its own thing, because it's only one episode in, so it's sort of hard to like get a full grasp on what it's trying to go for. But there's like a lot of more of the social commentary aspect, more for like current times rather than for like first Watchmen was like 1980, like early 80s, I think. And this one has, you know, like a more newer characters, and it's obvious that other characters from like the original have existed because there's like a brief little thing where you kind of see a news report being like, fucking Dr. Manhattan making a city in Mars and this stuff. So it's obviously like it's not just a completely different thing entirely. But so far, it's been interesting. It's been kind of hard to fully engage with it because it's like super slow. But I love like the world building and some of the like imagery in it so far because it's been pretty creative. Some of the allegorical stuff is like, yeah, that's pretty obvious what that's supposed to be because like there's like a group of people that are like more or less sort of followers of Rorschach, and it's just like, oh, they're just the KKK. All right, that's cool. Which, I mean, I guess it's Rorschach, so I guess that makes sense. But still, like, there's some obvious like one-to-one kind of like comparisons there. But for the most part, it's been able to kind of keep it more open-ended. It's more just for like quick kind of sleight of hand, I guess, for those sort of things. But it's been fun, interesting, and I don't know where the fuck this is gonna go because the way the first episode ended is a bit like, all right, that's there's a lot to happen in the first episode. So I don't know how it'll continue on, but it'll be interesting to see, and maybe when the season ends, maybe I might talk about how I feel about the whole thing because I'm planning on watching all of it if it continues to keep my interest, I'd say.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Watchmen fan of just everything Watchmen. Like I love the concept. Love, of course, the graphic novel, and I actually really enjoyed the film. I think that's probably my favorite Zack Snyder film.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I was like, yeah, Watchmen's great. He's gonna knock it out of the park with Batman v Superman. Well, then we got Batman v Superman. But anyway, Um, but I've been very excited for the HBO series. I haven't watched it yet, and I might just wait for the season to finish and then just cruise through it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm very intrigued from what I've heard leading up to the premiere of what they were kind of wanting to do with it.
Yeah.
And I like that they're doing a new story in the Watchmen universe. It's not a remake of the original story.
Exactly. It's the same universe, different story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm personally excited for it, having not seen the first episode. So
that's good. Yeah.
But again, I'm also kind of skeptical of like, they could totally fuck it up.
Yeah, that's this thing. We're only one episode in, so it's hard to like know for certain.
There's a lot more episodes they can mess up.
Oh yeah, they could definitely do that. And the showrunner is a bit of a mixed bag because it's made shows like The Leftovers, which is like really, really great and this interesting, surreal sort of concept. He also made Lost, which I don't think that needs to go any further explanation. So it could go either way, but I mean, it had a good track record recently, so we'll see. You know.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they're banking on this being like one of their new Game of Thrones-esque pushes of trying to get people to get on the HBO train.
Exactly.
So they take it seriously and try to make it as good as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like especially since
Game of Thrones was their previous train runner, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. At least, if nothing else, Game of Thrones shit itself like a few seasons in, so hopefully this doesn't shit itself one season in.
But then, next on the list, another one of the things where they put out a trailer, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to do trailer reaction to that. And I actually recorded a trailer reaction to this, and was so just met on it, I didn't even bother editing it.
Fair enough.
And that is Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey, yeah.
So have you seen the trailer?
Yeah, I've seen it at like in theaters a couple of times, just from stuff I've been seeing recently.
Yeah. So with the comic perspective, Birds of Prey is a really interesting idea. It's kind of these group of female anti-heroes. They got some really neat ones for the film. I mean, it's Harley Quinn, Huntress, and Black Canary. Which Huntress and Black Canary are really interesting characters to introduce into the DCEU.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't thrilled with the trailer. Like,
that's fair.
The main takeaways I had from it are, okay, Margot Robbie is killing it as Harley Quinn. Her story aside, acting-wise, she's having the time of her life.
Yeah.
And Ian McGregor knows exactly what kind of movie he's in. I just don't yet, but it's clear that he does.
Yeah, like, he knows what it is. We gotta find out later.
Yeah, so those are really my only takeaways, though, from it. I like, a lot of it, for me at least, watching the trailer felt like them doing things for the sake of doing things.
Yeah. Well, then again, I guess that's most trailers, so it's hard.
That's true.
Like...
But there was nothing pulling me into that they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like fun, I guess. I'm sort of like... From the way that the trailers were playing out, it almost seems like it's going to be like the superhero equivalent of like a hangout film, more or less.
That's fair. Which, to be fair, is currently what they're doing with the Harley Quinn character in the comics. And would probably work for a Birds of Prey-esque movie.
Yeah. I'm more interested in the other characters rather than like Harley Quinn, just because we've already gotten so much. And I feel like if we have just something that's more or less just a Harley Quinn movie rather than a Birds of Prey movie, it can kind of get a bit grating. Which
I did see a lot of things that felt very Harley Quinn movie-esque.
Yeah.
Especially because they were ripping some things straight from her current comic book story.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And putting it into that. Like, there are things like, some sequences where it's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that from a comic book in her, because I think her newest comic book line is like only a couple years old and they're still doing issues of it. It's fairly recent, so it's a much more modern take, but literally the premise of the Harley Quinn comic is I think Joker abuses her and she's like, I'm done, I'm going out on my own, and it's her adventures on her own without the Joker.
Yeah, like her own life.
This movie is her breaking off from Joker and doing her own thing.
And getting roommates.
Yeah. Which also part of the Harley Quinn comic.
Oh, okay, cool. So I guess...
So it feels more like they're taking some pages from that than Birds of Prey in general. And I couldn't get a great feel for Huntress or Black Canary in the trailer.
Yeah, nah, not really, honestly. And that's the thing why I'm worried it's just going to be a Harley Quinn film rather than.
And they're interesting
everybody.
characters.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and then Ewan McGregor's Black Mask is like, he is, like I just said, like, he's doing something and he's like, oh man, this is gonna be great. He's like, I can see his enthusiasm for his character in the footage.
Yeah.
I'm just watching and I'm like,
what is this?
What is said character though? Your Black Mask, that's not a Black Mask thing. Is this a diversion? Are you? You're having fun.
He's having fun, you know.
Like
he's just happy to be here.
You're right. It's like, and I think that's one of my favorite things about Ewan McGregor is he's just like, he'll show up and be like, yeah, I'll do my thing and have fun with it, no matter what that thing is.
More or less, yeah. Like, just Doctor Sleep if it's this, if it's Obi-Wan, whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know. I would love it if this movie is good. Coming off of Joker, this feels like an odd DCEU movie.
Yeah, especially since it's like now kind of reminding us that, oh yeah, there was the Jared Leto Joker. Mm-hmm. That was a thing, guys. Did you want to remember that? I bet you did.
Yeah, and I think now that Joker has made so much money, there are a lot of DC executives who are currently meeting to be like, so what the fuck are we doing with the DCEU next?
How do we do this now?
God, okay. So there's, I'm sure, a lot of board meetings currently to try and figure out what direction they want to go.
I could see that, yeah. Just like, everything that they thought that they set up now is gonna have to, like, reverse because just like, oh, this film that we weren't expecting necessarily to do amazing is now, like, fucking making gangbusters.
Exactly, like, we begrudgingly gave them a $50 million check and told them to maybe do something. And now it's made so much money. Whereas our Justice League did what?
Oh my god, I think it's actually made more than Justice League. Mm-hmm. Which is, well, actually, you know what? Fair enough, because that movie didn't deserve as much money as it got. But, yeah. It's like, what the fuck do we do now? Mm-hmm. We fucked ourselves over like that.
I think there's a lot of scrambling that's gonna, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of updates we're gonna get throughout the rest of 2019 from Warner Bros. And DC.
I feel like one of the things that's definitely, well, I think it's kind of set for it to be like probably like gritty R-rated, but you know, the Batman film, which
we're gonna. I think that's what we're talking about next, right?
Is it?
Yeah, we're talking about the Batman next.
Oh shit! All right, and so, mainly just casting at the moment since it's kind of like not fully in development yet.
Man, am I excited.
I am very excited too. I'm actually very, very excited. Especially just from the cast alone.
Yeah, so.
Cast alone.
You want to talk about that? And then I'll just kind of add on my thoughts?
Yeah, I think most of everyone that they got so far is like perfect choices, honestly. Especially Paul Dano as the Riddler. Yeah. Because one, Paul Dano is like the perfect man to get the shit kicked out of him. Because he's done it in every single film he's been in. Two, he has like the perfect demeanor for it too. He has, like, I look at him in the way that he acts in his films, like, I could fully see that being the Riddler.
Yeah. And Paul Dano is one of those actors who, when it was announced, I was like, oh, who's Paul Dano? I looked him up on IMDb, and immediately it was like, oh, that's perfect. Okay.
Yeah, then you're like, oh, shit.
Like, he's not, for me, one of those household names that I know, but as soon as I realized, like, oh, he was that person in that film. Oh, he was that person in that film. Oh, okay, he's Riddler. Cool. I'm fine with that. That's great.
Yeah, literally all he has to do is just play the fucking preacher from There'll Be Blood, but with, like, a green shirt. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman is like, that's perfect. That's a perfect choice. Jeffrey Wright, I haven't seen a whole lot from him, but he has, like, the perfect Gordon vibe.
I agree. I think he is a great Gordon vibe.
Yeah. And
especially with Robert Pattinson as a young Batman.
Yeah, also, so I was completely on board for Robert Pattinson being Batman. The only thing I was like, I don't know if he has, like, the physique, you know, for, like, you know, strong. Then I saw The Lighthouse, and I was like, oh, fuck, never mind, okay. So...
Yeah. Well, and then Robert Pattinson, for me, has been a real ride on his casting thing. Because when I was first announced it, I was like, oh, okay. Because I still have that Twilight thing on my brain. And I started doing more research, and I was like, oh, shit. Okay. I'm on board with this. And then the more that I've been looking into him, I'm like, nah, he's perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't see the original clip of it. I just saw the quote of it, so maybe this is fake. But it was something along the lines of him talking about his portrayal of his Batman that he wants to do. Something along the lines of he wants his Batman to be terrifying.
Yeah,
and he
like
wants this to be a character that he can just be fully immersed in and do something kind of really interesting with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a fun way to go about it. Like, especially with the direction that they're going for with the DC films, it seems a bit more like, not just with the original Batman, it was more like, he still has his morals and principles. Whereas this one, I could sort of see it being like, morally questionable more.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, the story they're going off of with this, because Matt Reeves, he wanted to do something kind of original, but it was based on some comic books, such as Long Halloween and basically,
classic.
What is it called? Batman, the animated Batman movie. What is it? Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, yeah,
That's another thing that it's inspired off of, is the idea of there is a killer in Gotham, and Batman has to figure out who it is.
Yeah, like,
and it's a mystery of him being, because Matt Reeves really wants to show Batman as the world's greatest detective. So it's Batman being a detective, and I'm on board with that 100%.
Same here, honestly. That's the thing. Like, there's been detective stuff here and there, but it's mostly just been like crime fighter. Whereas, like,
yeah, it's one of those things I wish the Nolan trilogy did more of. Is having like it was one of the more interesting parts of The Dark Knight when he's trying to understand the Joker.
Yeah.
And, like, I would have loved more stuff like that. And it seems like a full film of that.
And that's something I'm really excited for, too, here, honestly. And I think just from the cast that they got. And, and Matt Reeves actually got some pretty good stuff under his belt. So, I mean, like, I trust him for the most part. We'll see how it goes, but, like, casting-wise, it seems pretty perfect, honestly.
And I'm also interested because this is an early Batman film where he's just kind of not quite year one Batman, but in the early years of being Batman. One of the other things that it's based off is The Long Halloween. And I think it was The Long Halloween, or maybe it was one of the other things that it's based off of, is it's early enough in the history of Batman to where Bruce is dating Selina Kyle. But then, as their identities of Batman and Catwoman, they don't know each other's secret identities.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of a game of, by day, Bruce and Selina, they're dating, they have relationships, and he's like, oh man, I gotta go do this thing, and she's like, man, I gotta do this thing too. And then they put on their costumes, and then it's Batman chasing down Catwoman.
Yeah, and then it's just like, kind of like, like a game there where it's just going back and forth.
Which, in kind of that story of him trying to find out who a killer is just kind of another interesting thing of kind of that self-confidence thing of he's trying to find a killer, but then when he learns that the person he's dating is a jewel thief, it's like, I'm a shit detective if I didn't pick it up. And it's kind of that questioning of like, oh man,
what it feels like.
Yeah, like I'm really interested in some of the ideas that are at play here.
Yeah, honestly, and I think that could be a lot more interesting character-wise.
Yeah. And also that it's more of a timepiece and not set in modern day is also an interesting thing with it.
Oh, yeah. I guess I didn't even think about that, too. Yeah.
There's just a lot going for it where I'm like, okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Like, here's my money, show me what you got type of thing. Like,
I'll take a gander.
Yeah. So, anyway, the Batman. Man, the more that comes out about it, I'm excited for it. But anyway.
Now we're on to Spiderman.
Yeah, so Spider-Man back in the MCU. I think the last time one of the main things in the podcast was like, man, this whole Sony thing happening. Where it's like, Spider-Man's not in the MCU. And we had our conversations like, you know what? We're going to give Sony's benefit of the doubt. I'm sure they'll do great things with Spider-Man. Well, a week or a couple weeks after that, it's like, he's back in the MCU.
He's back.
Yeah,
which Tony Stark 2 again.
The interesting things that have come out about the deal is it's not like a long-term contract. It's for Spider-Man 3 and a movie where Marvel can just throw him into presumably Avengers 5, but it could be whatever Marvel film they want to throw him into. They get one free pass essentially of throwing
a Spider
him in.
Pass.
Yep. And then the other thing is that now they got Disney's Godfather approval that he can cross over with Venom in their properties.
Okay.
So, in the way in which, I think it was Kevin Feige or maybe it was Sony, someone from that side described it as is how it's going to work is Spider-Man can cross over with Venom, and they can acknowledge things from the MCU. They just can't show things from the MCU.
Yeah, like, just
and
mention
then vice versa, where Spider-Man can show up in Avengers 5 and be like, man, I fought this big symbiote thing, but Venom cannot show up.
Yeah, it's like, I fought this big symbiote thing. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right? Like, because it would have... I'm glad they're allowing that, because it would have been super awkward if in a Spider-Man crossover, he can't acknowledge any of the characters who've been in an MCU thing, and then when he comes back, he just has to pretend he didn't just fight Venom in a whole 2-hour movie.
Yeah, it's like, where the fuck were you guys?
He's like, I did a thing with a person. It's like, and that's all they can legally say.
I'd love it if, like, in the middle of Venom, he's, like, calling Captain America, like, or not Captain America, like, whoever's alive at this point, I need some help, and he's just like, why can't I call this person? It's like, caller not found.
Man, but it's like, it's the thing, and like, I think one of the things that it shows me is I wonder how much of this was orchestrated as publicity.
I kind of feel like it was orchestrated.
Because Bob Iger also came out and said and again, it was around the same time as his book, and I kind of questioned some of the legitimacy of it, but he says that Tom Holland called him up after the thing had went through of Sony and Marvel splitting with Spider-Man going back to Sony, where Tom Holland went through all of his contacts saying, hey, could I please have Bob Iger's number? And they were like, no. And then eventually it got up to Bob, and he was like, sure, give the kid my number. And Tom Holland very professionally called up Bob Iger and said, I would really love it if a deal could be reached for Spider-Man to come back into the MCU. And Bob Iger was like, huh, okay, thanks for calling. And then he hung up and called the head of Sony and said, okay, we need to figure something out. Let's come back to the table and talk. I question some of the legitimacy of that because as a CEO, money is what's going to motivate him. So I don't think that was I'm guessing Tom Holland did call him. I don't think it was immediately a, you know what, kid, you're right. I got you.
That good
Kevin,
kid.
I'm willing to fold. Let's get him back in the MCU. It wasn't done like that.
Yeah, it's like a biopic.
That's where I question some of the legitimacy, but I do believe Tom Holland calling Bob Iger and saying I want him back in the MCU, and then Bob Iger going to Sony and being like, your main star called me and said he wants to come back home. I think it's in your best interest to appease your main actor.
Yeah.
That's more how I could see it playing out.
Yeah, and just like appeals to the financial aspect of that too.
Yeah, of if your main actor isn't totally on board with what you're doing,
then that could not be great.
So that's more so how I could see of that going down, but that is an interesting aspect to it.
Yeah, it really is, and
the thing that kind of bumps me out is I wish in that deal there was more of a compromise.
Yeah,
it seems like Disney got exactly what they wanted. The only difference is now Venom can fully cross over with Spider-Man. And that was the main thing Sony got out of the deal.
Yeah.
Because...
yeah, pretty much.
Like, the number still seems the same as the deal that Disney proposed originally.
So basically Sony still got fucked over. It was just because they got peer pressured into doing so.
Yes, which again goes back to I wonder how much of this was orchestrated for publicity.
It kind of feels like a lot of it was, not gonna lie. Especially like the whole... like the stuff in the middle before they decided to just give into the deal with like the whole like free Spider-Man sort of thing and just like get that stigma. It's
also very interesting of if it was orchestrated and Tom really did feel passionate enough to call Bob Iger, that would probably mean that he was manipulated as well, which is very kind of icky for an actor.
It is a bit. It feels a bit
to be manipulated for a company to get more money. If that is what happened.
Yeah, you're an actor. You're not the fucking thing that holds the company together, and yet you're being like, you know, going to be like swindled into doing something for the benefit of another company or whatever. But
anyway, then moving on from that news, unless you have anything more to add to the MCU.
I just think it sucks and I hate it. Or wait, no, I have a better line. To quote Spider-Man 1, it stinks and I don't like it. Alright, anyways.
Alright, and then moving on, a little minor note that had come out. that I find interesting is so the Black Widow movie had wrapped shooting, but there was still something being shot for it, even though production was wrapping. They were in post, which typically is when they do their post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
It's when they're in post, the movie's been shot, they're like, all right, now let's figure out what we want to do for the post-credit scene.
Yeah.
And the scene in question involved a very, very old-looking, I don't even know, Senator Ross. Is that his position in the MCU now?
I think it is.
But it showed him, he was like old-looking. Because granted, 5 years went by between Infinity War and Endgame, or I guess technically the beginning of Endgame and the middle of Endgame. And boy, it looks like those years did not treat him well. Like, he has a cane, his hair is pretty much mostly gone.
Oof. Yeah, that's not fun.
Like,
wow.
Wrinkly as hell, like that type of thing.
Wrinkly boy.
But considering he's in the post-credit scene, it has some people speculating that it could be to set up a team in the Marvel Comics known as the Thunderbolts, which is kind of Marvel's Suicide Squad of sorts.
Interesting.
Only a lot of the time it involves less hardcore villain characters, more kind of those characters who can be kind of anti-heroes.
Yeah.
But it is more so their version of Suicide Squad. And one of the main members of it, given the name, is Thunderbolt Ross as the Red Hulk.
Interesting.
So,
okay,
just thought I'd kind of mention that because it could be interesting because I believe Taskmaster, who is a villain in the Black Widow movie, has been a member of the team in the comics. And it would be a good place for what's-her-name, forgettable antagonist of Ant-Man and the Wasp to go if they ever want to use her
Ghost
again.
Lady.
Yeah.
Forgot about her too.
So, and it would be an easy Disney Plus slam dunk.
Yeah, I guess it probably would.
But anyway, thought I'd mention that because that was one of the series coming around about why he's in the post-credit scene. It would be fucking hilarious, though, if that wasn't it at all, and they just wanted to show an old Ross saying some stuff.
Yeah, it's like we just want to look old for no reason at all.
But, like, get fans speculating, and it turns out it's like, I don't know, he just wanted to get coffee with Nick Fury.
Just need an espresso.
Anyway, and then next on the list, we have Kevin Feige. All the stuff going on with him behind-the-scenes stuff, so with the success of Endgame in the MCU as a whole, he got a big promotion and then a new task as well, which, man, that guy must have zero free time.
Probably, yeah. I don't think he does.
Like, he loves his job, I'm absolutely positive, but man, that guy. So one of the big things that happened is they're giving him a Star Wars movie to produce.
Interesting. All right.
And I assume what they're wanting to do with that is try and hope that the magic he brought to the MCU, he can bring together in creating Star Wars, because now that they're ending on a Skywalker trilogy, I'm guessing they're going to try and focus on more solo, Rogue One-esque films that are like, this happens in the universe of Star Wars. And I'm guessing they're going to bring on Kevin Feige slowly over time to be an orchestrator in connecting those stories.
Alright.
Which I'll say, if that's their plan, he's the guy who would do it.
Yeah.
It's better than being like, we hired Jeff Johns to do our Star Wars connections.
Fair enough.
But I would prefer if they kept him over on Marvel so that he could be really good at doing the Marvel stuff. But to be fair, he's a bigger Star Wars fan than he is a Marvel fan.
I guess.
So this could have been also something that he had been, throughout the past years, trying to show interest in. And they're like, Endgame did so well, fuck it. Yeah, do whatever you want. Here's a Star Wars movie. Start on that. That will be the equivalent of your Iron Man. And if that does well, you can do another, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, exactly. I guess sort of my skepticism is I just hope if he does become like a big player in new Star Wars films that like he allows like a lot more creativity and freedom upon what they have, because like Marvel has a very established aesthetic and approach that is very obvious from like all their films, but like by this point now we've seen it so many times to feel stale, and I'm just hoping he can kind of allow a lot more like freedom and variables to go along with some of the Star Wars films rather than just make Marvel Star Wars films.
Yeah, and especially because all the extended universe stuff in Star Wars has been thrown out the window by Disney. I'm hoping that clean slate will give him the ability to do that.
Yeah, hopefully so.
To where he's not having to base it off of a comic or any past storyline. He can just be like, yeah, let's have a character doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And make something interesting about it, something creative, something fun, interesting.
Yeah. And I think my skepticism comes more so from the fact of one of the big things in the Sony contract is that he probably wouldn't produce the Sony movies going forward. And they wanted him to do that. Which, if he didn't have the time to do the Sony movies, what does his time look like now? Like, I'd rather him
I was gonna say, it's like...
focus on Marvel and do a hell of a job with that than take on too much where he spreads himself thin and the Kevin Feige attachment means nothing.
Yeah, it's just arbitrary. It's like...
Like, he signed some papers for that film.
This movie had papers signed by Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Showing the credits.
That's more so my worry. Because I admire him as a big picture storyteller.
Yeah.
And he knows his stuff with Marvel and Star Wars. I want him to be able to do that, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, especially with his new job that we're about to talk about, I'm kind of worried about that. But the new job is he has been promoted to be Marvel's Chief Creative Officer. And what that means is essentially, at the moment, he was I believe was the president of Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
There's Marvel, and then their branches. Marvel Studios is one of them. He moved up the ladder for all of Marvel. So now he's the creative head for all the movies, the TV shows, and most notably, the comic book storylines going forward.
Yeah, that's... I was going to say, it's like, how much more promotion can you get by this point? But yeah, that's like everything.
Yeah, so now he is the creative brain for all of Marvel.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's a bit like working on Star Wars now being upgraded to that for Marvel. I feel like that's way too much, probably.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm sure he'll do a hell of a job. I'm guessing also, though, it's one thing that makes me kind of sad about it. It's like the only thing that I'm kind of like, oh, with that news.
Yeah.
Is that I'm guessing they did that so he can bring the success of the MCU over to the comics. And I like the comics being more separated, but to be fair, over the past few years, they have been definitely converging more with the MCU. This is kind of the final solidation of that.
Yeah, just now just becoming sort of the same sort of storyline.
Yeah. So now he is the creative brain for Marvel as a company.
All right. Well, just hope he doesn't have a fucking stress attack.
Yeah. We just see, like, he ages like Obama did over his terms, only over the next 2 years now.
Yeah, just like 2 years later, he just looks like an old man.
He looks like Thunderbolt Ross. It's like...
Yeah, exactly.
Man, the snapping. Oh.
Man, it was a lot different ever since I became Chief Creative Officer.
But yeah, so... Anyway, and then on to a piece of news that you actually want to talk about, and I totally forgot about when I was making the agenda, is the Scorsese statements.
Yeah,
and the whole controversy surrounding that.
Yeah, the Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola statements surrounding Marvel. It wasn't just them two, because there's more people that came into it, like Ken
I think
Loach.
it's one of those things where it started as Scorsese, and then everyone started talking about it and showing their opinions. The statements have really just kind of evolved.
Yeah, it definitely evolved from there. So, to give some background, feels so long ago now. I don't even remember when.
And that's why I totally forgot to put it on here. I was like, oh, we didn't talk about that yet. Yeah.
Yeah. It was in an interview with Martin Scorsese, who some of you may know, like a famous film director who's made some of the best of all time.
One of the greats of our time.
Probably for most people, like considered the best American director. Probably, unless you're like the more household name known, not like weird specific director stuff, but. He recently had an interview where I think someone asked him about like his thoughts on Marvel films in general, and the headline said Marvel films are not cinema, but that wasn't the end of what he said. The full thing was more, he said that I appreciate the craft that goes into them, but I don't really see them as much as like filmic experiences, more as like, you know, a carnival ride or something like that, which I guess there's some validity behind it, and it may seem a little bit dismissive, but it's sort of, you know, in a gray area. And then everything just kind of went to shit from there.
Yes.
Marvel people, comic book people. James Gunn. Like a whole lot of people just kind of all went in to this discussion about like why are superhero films not cinema, even though that's not what he said. He's but like like that conversation, and so it evolved more from there. And there was Francis Ford Coppola, which made the fucking Godfather, so but he also made like Twits too, so I mean and Jack, but he made 2 Godfather films in Apocalypse Now, so I don't give a shit if he made Jack. Anyways, he kind of came in on the same boat talking about a similar thing. I don't remember exactly what his statements were. It was sort of more or less another kind of like, doesn't really see. I think. Oh wait, no. Francis Ford Coppola was talking about it wasn't as much he had a beef with the movies, but more just like the general process that went into them of it just being kind of like sort of streamline kind of production line sort of filmmaking rather than like artistic creation sort of thing, which I think is genuinely a valid point, because while the Marvel films have some artistry behind them, obviously all films have some, and there's some genuine passion put into it, a lot of the stuff behind it, like the financing and the way of getting it out there, is a bit iffy, I'd say.
Especially the whole production process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's day by day, like, oh, how did that test? Okay, and it's just kind of
it's very
going through the motions of shooting.
It's very formulated, kind of clinical.
That's a great way of saying it. Very formulated.
But and it wasn't even as much just like Marvel films. I think he kind of basically had just a beef with the entire Disney company, which what, he fucking is allowed to say that because of the fact that just. He was just mentioning how like Disney films are more or less just like eating more and more of the market with each day, and that's fucking it's such a funny thing coming from him, because he made The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, but at some point he literally went broke because he couldn't finance a film anymore.
Yeah, I mean even Spielberg has talked about how he has trouble financing a film now,
and Scorsese had to, the guy who is like got to see everything in the theater, old man with his old philosophies. Is releasing his film on Netflix because he doesn't have any other way to fucking release it. So
I didn't even know that, actually. Wow.
Yeah, it's coming out in December, I think. But like, just people are saying like, old guys who don't know how the world works. I'm just like, no, it's that the process is kind of shit, and it's not really all that fun. And then Bob Iger himself came up and had a statement about it. And it was like the most immature way to like talk about this whole thing, which the 2 points I remember him talking about specifically was just like, if you don't like them, don't say bad things about them, or something along those lines. And then he pulled the a bad diversity card, which was, we made Black Panther.
Oh, I do remember that.
And then didn't elaborate on that at all. And it was just so funny, because like Black Panther's a very good movie, and it's helped for like more diverse blockbusters. But from a filmmaking standpoint, it is just kind of another Marvel film.
I mean, look at the final scene and how people complain about the CGI on that because the artist had zero time to meet the deadline.
Yeah, like had no time to actually like put the proper time and care into it.
And also the production design was rushed as well, which I think was probably problem A with that scene.
Yeah,
because even if they did have the time to really refine the CGI, characters in black suits fighting in a black background.
Yeah, but still, Black Panther is actually a very good movie and is something that's genuinely important. But Bob Iger just basically used it as like an asset for an argument, and it's just like, not only is that really disrespectful, it just makes you seem very like you don't actually care about your properties and more just like they're assets.
Yeah, and it's one of the things where I want to give Bob the benefit of the doubt. The past couple months have not been great with him trying to be out there with the public.
And kind of, yeah.
It's transparent, but not in the way that I think he wants to be.
Nah, and something happened very recently that I think kind of just adds on more to this, like the beef with just Disney in general, not just like Marvel in general. And I think it happened yesterday, so it's very recent. So apparently because of the Fox deal, Disney has a lot of classic Fox films in their catalog.
That's right.
And recently, they have now put like an extra paywall for theaters to actually obtain certain films. And
that's so Disney. I'm not even surprised.
It's so fucking Disney, but it just hurts so much because like so many classic films are part of Fox's catalog that like independent theaters were able to show because of the fact that Fox was more forgiving with them. And now that's probably not going to happen. And I think a good example was, and I think it's kind of fitting that we watch this for a class, Rocky Horror Picture Show, a film that's like, it's like a phenomenon among a lot of people, and it's like an important piece of media for a lot of people, and like creating community and all that sort of thing. And now it's kind of not looking like that's going to happen anymore. It's going to disappear entirely because Disney's like, pay us like 2 times what you're supposed to originally. So a lot of people are like against Scorsese and Coppola. I don't understand that at all personally. So
yeah. So my take on this whole situation as a whole is I get what Scorsese is trying to say. I think the way in which he said it created that soundbite that has created all the controversy.
It definitely did.
Like if instead of it being just an interview type question, if it was a formulaic, he had time to think about it and could pose like a letter on it, then people could maybe click with it more. But in the way in which it was kind of like that soundbite and that more interview-esque thing, it's just spiraled out of control. And I think for me personally, it's one of the things where, again, I get what he's trying to say. I disagree with some in areas, and I think for me, the main thing that has kind of elevated Marvel to a level above some of the things they've done has been the Russo brothers. Because I think about it, and I think of, for me, the cinematic impact of the Marvel films clicked with me in Infinity War. Is when I realized, oh shit, these films can make myself and a large audience feel something.
Like
whereas I don't think that had been done in a similar way in any other Marvel film.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas, like, the first Avengers film, if Scorsese had said that when the first Avengers film came out, would have 1,000% been on his side. Like, I think the Russo brothers have brought this kind of long form, almost TV show-esque building of characters and creating an emotional attachment from Winter Soldier, really. I think the films before that, they didn't have that same element. I think Tony Stark had some of that, but the universe as a whole didn't. I think the Russos have been very good and meticulous about getting an audience to have that attachment to a large ensemble group of characters.
That's fair,
And I think Infinity War and then Endgame have showed that level of cinema quality, especially also with some of the shot composition and some of the scenes present. Marvel as a whole, though, does have that tendency, especially with the whole Edgar Wright Ant-Man situation, of the kind of bottlenecking some of that creativity. But I do think it is present. It's just not what it could be, or to the extent it could be, or the extent of a Scorsese piece.
Exactly. And like I don't fully agree with like his statement either. Like just the one that was talking about like Marvel films not like the production behind a Disney company, but like like there's still merit behind them, honestly. And it's one of those things where it's like it's kind of closed-minded, but I understand where it comes from at least.
And there are elements of it that I definitely agree with. I think it has just been blown out of the water, though. And I think
that's the thing.
We talked about it beforehand. Robert Downey Jr. had a great statement of it, and I 1,000% agree with his statement.
Honestly, like if you want to see like the best way to deal with this kind of situation, look up it was the Howard Stern interview, right? Howard Stern interview with Robert Downey Jr. about like his thoughts on the claims about what Scorsese was saying and what later became Coppola, Ken Loach, and all those other people.
In that interview, man, Robert Downey Jr. is just so charismatic.
And my favorite thing is like Howard Stern keeps trying to like goad him into like saying
he tries to get a soundbite.
He tries to get a soundbite, but like he knows what's going on, and he just has like the perfect class and just calm demeanor, and says like literally perfectly what I think is the best way to talk about this situation, which was just both sides have merits, but we should just be more accepting of like what the perspectives are, not just like one is bad, one is good.
Yeah.
Which is actually like I think that was the best way to like talk about that situation at that time, especially.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that covers our movie news, an hour and 40 minutes into this, holy cow. So we might cruise through some of the other topics, especially because some of these I just want to talk about, because man, what a weird month of gaming this has been.
Yeah.
So the first one is Untitled Goose Game.
I want to play that. I don't have anything to play it on, though.
Mm-hmm. Like, that's one of those games where I knew nothing about it before seeing YouTubers do Let's Plays of it. And it's literally just a game, like almost a goat simulator, where only you're a goose. Only you have challenges, and you can be like, oh, do this and do that, and you have to kind of think like, all right, as a goose, how do I do blank?
Yeah. It's more or less like a game about just fucking with people, more or less.
Really, yeah.
That just reminded me of something.
And your goose character, if you go through all the achievements, you're so mischievous, and you're such a, like...
I'm here to cause trouble, not be a good person. You know, it just reminded me of something actually kind of funny. When you see the Lighthouse, there's something in it that reminds me a lot about Untitled Goose Game. And you'll see what it is. But, like, anyways, it's just... Untitled Goose Game is, just a game of creating mischief for, like, everybody. Yeah, like, it's one of those games that I would love and would totally pick up if they especially just started adding DLC of, like, here's new challenges you can do. Here's a new map area. Here's a new whatever. Just, like, it's like, if I could just play that game, because, like, it's one of the games where I could totally see myself playing and getting through all the challenges and that kind of thing. I would love just to do that more. Yeah.
Like, more challenges, even.
Exactly. I'm totally on the same boat on that one, honestly.
Yeah. So the next game, which, man, what a genius of marketing.
Wait, what is that?
Is a game called I Love You, Colonel Sanders. So KFC made their own video game, which is based on, what's the genre called?
Is it a dating sim?
Yep.
Oh, no.
Colonel Sam. Let me show you some images of gameplay. But man, what a genius of marketing.
I hate it.
Because it's a legitimate game. They legitimately even sponsored some content creators to play this. Some content creators just played it for the hell of it. Because it's so hilariously knowing what it is.
Why? Nick, I'm scared. No.
And, like, I've only seen the beginning of the game, but your character, and it's so anime, also, in its art style.
Just completely, like, it's just, no, like, that's totally dating sim.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
But, like, your character goes to a culinary school, which is hilarious because it makes, it makes it seem like KFC's culinary, but... And there's this cute new guy in the school who's Colonel fucking Sanders. And there's like, it's so like,
I can't believe
browser level dating sim game of like, your teacher is a corgi. It's like, it's hilariously.
Oh no.
And they like, he quizzes you on KFC meals.
This KFC.
It's like, is this meal good, bad, or the best? It's like the best. Like, you get an A. It's like, it's so hilarious in knowing what it is that I would never play it, but it's genius marketing.
It's just funny that it exists. Also, why the fuck is KFC marketing to weebs right now?
Oh, they hardcore are. 1,000%.
They just need like an Ava intro and then we're good.
That's like actual images of KFC bowls. Yeah, so here's the dog teacher, by the way.
Oh my fucking god!
like you've seen that game before.
It is.
Like,
you know what's the weirdest thing though? This is not the weirdest dating sim I've seen.
Valid.
There's one where you date birds.
I've seen that one. Yeah. He's on a horse. But yeah, so I thought I'd mention that because I wouldn't play the game. Look at the dog.
Why? I hate it, but it's kind of amazing to look at.
It's they made this to be a meme to get people to go like, yeah, but now I want KFC.
Fucking.
It's so brilliantly doing what it needs to do.
That's the power of
like it's not even they're like, oh man, let's make a game and it'll be a AAA title and it'll be, cult piece, and like they're like, man, I bet this would increase our sales and be super stupid.
They probably didn't pay all that much to even get it
No,
made.
of course not. But it's one of those games to where it's like, again, I wouldn't play it, but I appreciate that it exists.
I appreciate the sentiment, at least.
And I don't even appreciate it from an it's great standpoint. I appreciate it as a piece of marketing.
It's something that exists. Very much exists somehow. Yep.
All right, and then last, which is actually a great piece of gaming news, is they just released the newest Jackbox party game, which is Party Pack 6.
Ooh, oh damn. That's
so
cool.
Jackbox we play a lot on this channel. It's the same game that has like Drawful in it, and what are some of the other ones that we normally play? Quiplash.
Quiplash, yeah, definitely a lot of Quiplash. Yeah, there's just a lot of kind of like fun little games on there.
Well, let's see. So what's in Party Pack 6? Let me try and remember. So I know there's Trivia Murder Party 2 is in there, which Trivia Murder Party is an awesome game, so they did the sequel to that in this. Here we go. Yeah, Trivia Murder Party 2. Dictionarium, I don't think I've seen. Role Models is one of those games that could be interesting, but it's not one that would work for like a live stream or something, really.
Yeah.
It's a game where basically you have a group, and the idea is you each know each other very well. It doesn't work if the people don't know each other well. And basically you have to determine, like, you all vote for which person is the most blank. And by the end of it, it gives you each a list of kind of like, you are the blank stereotype as the group.
Yeah, you are this. And
it's super out there and that kind of thing. It's like, you would pick a subject of like, just because channel loves Transformers, like, Transformers, you could pick it, like, who's the Megatron of the group? Who's the bitchy Starscream of the group? Who's the Optimus Prime of the group? But it's like, they're like the list of categories, like wine, like, or like it just goes on and on. So like, it could be a fun game, but you need to know everyone. Push the Button actually is kind of interesting. It's a game where you have a group of people and two of you are aliens, and it's supposed to, the idea of it is you guys are people on a spaceship, and two of the people in the group of like 8 astronauts on there are secretly aliens who are going to kill the rest of you.
Oh,
and the idea is you have to figure out who are the aliens and vote them out.
Yeah.
And the way in which you do that is through kind of questions in a very Jackbox way of like, okay, there are like different challenges where it's like the ship captain who rotates every turn gets to pick 4 people or 2 people or a set amount number of people to participate in a challenge. And that challenge would be like, okay, all the humans get this one prompt and the alien gets a different prompt. And you have to argue for who is human.
Yeah. Who's the real one?
It's like a hilarious one I saw from a video was like 4 people were put in, and the prompt is, what is the best thing to get on, what's the best type of candy to get on Halloween?
Yeah.
3 people said king-size chocolate bars, and the 4th person said a lollipop. So like things like that. So, I mean, I love Jackbox, so I'm all about this, but they released the newest version of their game, and hell yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so any other thoughts for the stream?
Not really. I think that's more or less everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the J4U podcast. It was a long one.
It was
almost 2 hours. Holy crap. But yeah, so I hope talk about a good amount of stuff, answer some of the Transcrafters questions about when stuff is coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that said, thank you guys for watching. Please like, for a comment, and subscribe to this video with all your friends. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Stay classy. Later. Oh.
Wow.